pair of Sooners wide receivers are back in the mix.
You are Locked On Sooners, your daily podcast on the Oklahoma Sooners. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Sooner Nation? Welcome to Locked On Sooners, and thank you for making Locked On Sooners your first listen every single day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. As playoffs wind down, the sports stop sporting like we want them to, but this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a booster or bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Shout out to all the everydayers that are tuning in, subscribing to the show, and making Locked On Sooners their first listen every single day. He's Jay Smith. I'm John Williams. On today's show, is Jackson Arnold indeed going to be ready? We're going to talk about what Temple brings to the table. But first, we've got to talk about what Brent Venables said in his first media availability of fall camp, starting with this. Injury reports that Jalil Farouk, Andrel Anthony, there's optimism that they are going to be ready for the start of the 2024 season, Jay.
I was very shocked when I heard him say that because, of course, the fear is, Jalil Farouk didn't have to have surgery, but he had an injury. And then Andrel Anthony had knee surgery after the Texas game because of a torn ACL. And there were rumors going around that he may have had like a setback or something. And so there was fear that he wouldn't be ready until closer to Auburn, maybe, right? The SEC play, either Tennessee or Auburn. And hearing that he's running around doing routes, and then hearing that Jalil Farouk is also pretty active, so there's a possibility of availability week one, that's huge for what we're trying to do.
Yeah, Venables said Jalil Farouk's like 90%, and Andrel Anthony's doing a lot of the individual drills. Hasn't gotten involved in team yet, but there's anticipation that he could be ready for the start of the season. What does that do for Oklahoma's already deep wide receiver core?
It's going to provide, as he would say, competitive depth, right? If you've watched my channel, that's a drinking game. You got to take a sip. But it provides that because now you have the versatility of being able to play multiple people, especially the first few weeks of the season, because you don't really want to get too many people gassed. You also don't want to show your hand, show your cards a little too early in the season. Even though we know Deion Burks is going to go off in all 3 games to start the year, you got to do that because no matter what, Tennessee, Auburn, everybody else in the SEC knows that they're going to have to keep an eye on him. Well, then you can kind of get Nick Anderson going and mix it up with, Jay Gibson and then Farouk and Andrel Anthony. All it does is provide you with multiple weapons that Jackson Arnold probably is already comfortable with, and just something that other teams are going to have to really scheme for. Because then at that point, they have no clue who's going to be on the field.
Yeah, that comfort level dates back to last season in non-conference play. We saw him work with Nick Anderson and Jaden Gibson and work really, really well. Obviously, Andrel Anthony was having a huge year before getting injured against Texas. We know Deion Burks is going to be a big-time player, and I get it. You don't like the fumbles from Jalil Farouk in the Alamo Bowl, but do not sleep on the dude who was Oklahoma's most consistent wide receiver last year. I mean, he stayed on the field throughout the entire year, and I say most consistent. Drake Stoops was that. But Jalil Farouk I want to say he was like second on the team in total yards. So in receiving and rushing yards. So let's not sleep on Jalil Farouk at all. I really, really hope we get to see a Seth Latrell offense run 5 wide with Gibson, Anderson, Burks, Andrel, and Farouk all at the same time, because I think that just could be a lot of fun, and it's going to put a lot of stress on opposing defenses. I know they'll run a lot of 11 personnel, 3 wide receivers, 1 tight end, and a lot of 40, which is 4 wides and a running back. But I want to see some 5 wide. I think that could be some incredibly intriguing offense. Now, on the defensive side, we got an injury update on Dasan McCullough. Sounds like he's got a bit of a toe injury that's keeping him out right now, keeping him somewhat limited. But it provides opportunities for some of these other guys to get snaps.
Yeah, and that looks at that cheetah role, right? A lot of people were thinking Dasan was going to play cheetah. No, it appears that he's been moved to more of a weak side linebacker, like the will linebacker instead of the Mike. So he's going to be the will. And anyway, cheetah was going to be opened up, but what you're going to see now is more opportunities for like a Kobe McKenzie. Even a Samuel Mosigo may have an opportunity to go out there and play either will linebacker or even cheetah, because we know Kendall Dobie's basically got that bad boy locked up. That kid is just exceptionally good. not only watching for the run and getting tackles because he loves to get sacks, he loves to blitz, but also can play in coverage. And so we know that he owns that spot. But Samuel Mosigo is going to get an opportunity to play a lot more, which, I mean, to be honest, that's going to be huge for the development of this linebacker room going forward, because we've got to start preparing ourselves for life without Danny Stutzman. Now, this season he's going to play, but he's gone after this year. He has to. He doesn't have a choice at this point, right? Kind of like we were talking about Jalil Farouk, who was our top wide receiver against Texas. Remember that. He was cooking them boys. But when Stutzman is gone, you need to start working on who's going to be behind him. I mean, we know it's going to be Kip. We know Kobe's there, right? We know Lewis Carter. But you really want to see more Lewis Carter and Samuel Mosigo at that linebacker spot in preparation for the departure of our fearless leader.
Yeah, and there's also some encouraging and optimistic news about the offensive line. Brent Venables is happy with the work that they've put in over the offseason, and even mentioned, hey, everything is up for grabs. There's no position that is solidified, although he did say that Jacob Sexton, Jake Taylor have become big-time leaders for the offensive line, your potential starting bookend tackles. And then also notable, Josh Bates running a lot with the first team.
That's the one thing that got me intrigued, right? Now, I don't think that this is a slight on a Branson Hickman at all whatsoever. He still needs to learn things, right? He's a transfer. He just came in, and that center position is critical in understanding the calls, right? So it's what made it even intriguing with that is in spring camp, you saw Jacob Sexton play a little bit of left guard, right? And people were wondering, oh no, they're moving Sexton to guard like they did Caden Green. No, and I give a shout out to Brandon Drum over at OU Insider because he pointed this out. And it makes logical sense. They moved Sexton in because Sexton knows the calls a little bit better than Bates, because Sexton, he started, Florida State and then was hurt and then came back and played. He moved in to help Bates in getting the calls properly because of the distance, right? You can't call out to the left tackle so far away. And it's especially when you're trying to learn it. And so now that Bates has really taken in the studying of the offense and making sure he knows it down pat, he has an edge over Hickman right now. Now Branson is still a beast. We know he's going to play a lot, but Joshua Bates stepping up like that is huge. And then when you talk about those bookends, look, man, I think we have it set as far as what the two deep is. Now the question is which one's actually going to start. And I don't think that's actually a problem at this point.
No, not at all. And you've got 10 guys that you feel pretty good about, at least comfortable with. Even if a guy like Spencer Brown doesn't start or Michael Tarkin doesn't start, you feel really good about having that experienced depth. Same with a guy like Gary Hatchett. Very experienced depth that you can bring off the bench in a pinch if you need to, or if you just want to rotate guys and give opposing defenses different looks. Or if you want to, say you're going to Auburn and you're concerned about how your young guys are going to respond to the environment, well, you've got some veterans like a Michael Tarkin that have played in SEC, or a Spencer Brown that have played, big time Big Ten football and are used to environments like that. It gives you some more options, some more flexibility. If you feel like, okay, the communication is kind of sluggish right now, we need to improve that along the offensive line. There's nothing wrong with a little bit of camp competition. It's going to sharpen everybody. It's going to make everybody better. It's going to push your younger guys. And I'm encouraged about Josh Bates too. If you've been watching Locked On Sooners for very long, you know how big of fans we are here on the show. We've had Josh on several times. You can go find our episodes and our interviews with that dude. He's salt of the earth, man. A kid that just wants to go to work and go do punishing work on the interior of the offensive line. So the fact that he's starting to get more and more opportunities with the first team is only going to help his development. Even if he's not the full-time starter for this year, you're going to need him potentially to be your full-time starter in 2025. So it's all about development. Development is a weird timeline. It goes for everybody a little bit differently, right? Like not everybody is on the same kind of path and the same trajectory all the time, but you're still developing. So that's encouraging. Any other kind of encouraging notes that we want to touch on before we jump into our next topic there, Jay?
Even on top of the Hatchet, the Hatchet, and Heath Zeta got a lot of praise from Brent Venables as well, right? And so as you mentioned perfectly, we've got the 10 guys. Those guys we know are the ones that are going to play. And so Heath Zeta getting him some love as well. And Venables mentioned that he stepped up a lot. Makes me feel like he's going to potentially be on that starting line as well, even with an experienced guy like a Gary Hatchett, right? I was listening to Gabe and Teddy, and Gabe kind of mentioned he feels like Hatchett feels more like a center to him, size-wise, but he's also played center, right? That's what Gabe did. So he kind of has a good eye at that. And when he said that, it makes me understand and think that, okay, probably we'll see more Zeta because I know that he's gotten big. And so, yeah, we've got the 10 guys. Now it's all about how we want to rotate them and play and just how well they mesh together. So I think we're going to be fine at the offensive line. Thank goodness.
Yeah, Bill Bedenbaugh will figure it out. In Bill we trust. Is Jackson Arnold ready? Coming up next on Locked On Sooners.
Passion, drive, and patience. The formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whatever you're into, speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay's guaranteed fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the price you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay guaranteed fit only available to U.S. customers.
Thank you for making Locked On Sooners your first listen of the day. For your second listen, enjoy the Locked On College Football podcast. Spencer McLaughlin gets you ready for an exciting season on the gridiron with discussion on the upcoming season and the ever-changing landscape of college athletics, including conference realignment, the transfer portal, NIL, new college football expanded playoffs, and more. Locked On College Football is available on YouTube and wherever you get your podcasts. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. So, Jay, it's been an encouraging first week for one Jackson Arnold in fall camp. The tools are there. Everything looks to be heading in the right direction for him. What did Brent Venables have to say about him? Well, it sounds like the execution is exactly where Brent Venables wants it to be for a guy like Jackson Arnold.
Yeah, he mentioned that even with the decision-making piece, right? He says that he feels like it's where it's gotten better. And I've heard some people kind of seeing some message boards and on social media kind of get a little nervous about that. But you have to understand, they're throwing the kitchen sink at the kid. So the decisions are not going to be easy for him to make right now because he's learning against a very quote-unquote new defense, yet it's the same. And for him, it's going to be all about making sure that he just continues to make the right decision, in which we know he will. Right? That's not something that we're concerned about when it comes to that. So the most important thing for Jackson Arnold is to make sure he didn't make the wrong decision at the wrong times later in the season. Right now, it's all about just learning. And I love that he's learning.
Yeah, we're not going to overrate interceptions in fall camp. Same thing I'm not going to do in NFL training camp and get too excited about interceptions because not only is it a learning process in training camp and fall camp, but it's also a time to experiment a little bit. Like this is the opportunity to figure out what can you get away with. Because when it comes to the regular season, you're not going to take those same risks that you might take in fall camp, in a practice. You know, when you're trying to go down the seam to a Bauer Sharp and he's in double coverage with Peyton Bowen and Kenai Walker, maybe you're going to try and throw that ball and see what Bauer Sharp's going to be able to do in that situation. Well, Peyton Bowen makes a nice one-handed interception. So maybe you're thinking, okay, maybe during the regular season, I'm not going to throw that ball when Bauer Sharp's double covered. But in fall camp, that's when you kind of want to give guys an opportunity to go make a play and see what you're going to be able to work with. So as we get ready for season one with Jackson Arnold, how are you feeling at this point? Are you on a scale of 0 to 10, let's say, how confident are you in where Arnold is at this point?
Honestly, if I was to be a realist in this, I'm about 7.5. And I say I'm 7.5 because I'm ready to see what type of mistakes he's going to make. He's a true sophomore. He's going to make mistakes, right? And a couple of buddies of mine, we were talking about this, and I kind of made mention, I believe he's going to throw double-digit interceptions this season. Now, that's not a bad thing, right? Because I think it's going to be because he's going to be aggressive, right? You're going to see some deep passes, which will be, if they do get intercepted, that's technically a punt, right? If you do it on 3rd and 13 and you go deep and try to score and they get the interception really deep, yeah, you just punted the ball 40 yards. That's something that you don't really get upset about. I just don't want to make sure there's not passes across the middle that shouldn't have been thrown, or, throwing a screen pass to the wide receiver gets picked in return for an interception, a la Kansas. I want to see him push the ball down the field. So I'm pretty confident about that. But let me ask you this. There was someone that tweeted at me this. It was a pretty good question. Who do you think is going to be, not only who do you think is going to be the backup quarterback, but who do you think is going to be a more influential teacher this coming season, Casey Thompson or Seth Latrell?
Well, Seth Latrell has worked with Jackson Arnold now going on his second year. Mm-hmm. So Seth Latrell was an offensive analyst under Jeff Lebby in the 2023 calendar year, made that transition to co-offensive coordinator with Joe John Finley a little bit more seamless. So Jackson Arnold, Seth Latrell, they already have that rapport. Having a guy like Casey Thompson as a backup, even if he's not your primary backup, that matters. Having a dude that has played a lot of big-time football, played at Texas, a lot of big games at Texas, played at Nebraska, a lot of big games at Nebraska, played at FAU. So he's seen probably as much as one guy can see going from the Big 12 to the Big 10 to whatever conference FAU is in at this point. You've seen a lot of different defenses. You've seen a lot of different looks. And so as those guys are in the film room and they're breaking tape down, his experience is going to be able to help inform Jackson Arnold. And so that's going to matter. Now, as far as a teacher goes, I mean, I think you could say both guys are going to have significant influence on Jackson Arnold. Now, for the backup quarterback question, that's going to be intriguing to watch, because if you need a backup quarterback for a half, it's going to be Casey Thompson. To me, yep. You're going to bring in the veteran that's able to jump into the fray and execute the offense, and going to have the trust of the offensive coordinator, the head coach, and all that. But if you're talking to me about somebody that you need for 3 or 4 games or a half of a season, God forbid, then I would be going with Michael Hawkins, because if I've already lost Jackson Arnold, again, God forbid, not speaking this into existence, if for some reason I need a quarterback for 5 or 6 games and it's not going to be Jackson Arnold, I'm ready to see what Michael Hawkins can do for me. The dude is athletic enough. He's fast enough. He's got a big arm. He's a really, really good, promising young quarterback. I want to see what I've got in this kid. Casey Thompson, hey, all power to you. Respect, nothing but. But I need to know what I've got in Michael Hawkins, and to a little bit lesser extent, Brendan Zurbrugg as well, because it's, again, a developmental game.
Right. Your bigger question is going to be who's going to be healthy, right? Because with Casey, he's coming off the knee injury from when he was at Florida Atlantic, and he got hurt in the game at Clemson, right? So, like you said, he's played at some big-time stadiums. I mean, he beat Iowa at their house his last game at Nebraska. And so he's played in some big-time games, played in some big-time stadiums, and had the opportunity to be adjusted. And so that when that question was asked, I was like, that's fascinating, because, yes, he's going to be able to pull in the experience of dealing with that stuff. And that's going to be good ways to help kind of temper down what, the tendencies that Jackson Arnold could potentially show, right? The excitement, the happy feet, the need to make the right decision. But outside, like you said, when you go to the second quarterback, it's gonna have to probably be either Casey or Michael Hawkins. But I would probably prefer Michael Hawkins, bring the young guy in. And it's mainly because we know that they're all being forged in fire right now defensively. I keep repeating it, but that's the thing about it. That's how Brent Venables coaches, right? And I know Zach Galley's probably the exact same way. He's going against Seth Latrell as if they're in an actual game, and he wants to beat them. And in a lot of situations, you've seen some of the propaganda already been put out. Jackson Arnold's hitting Deion Burks deep on a regular basis, right? But he's also going deep to other players, and then defenders are coming across the top. So the question is going to be, which one of these guys, is it going to be Casey Thompson, or is it going to be Seth Latrell that's going to be able to help Jackson with, when it comes to the read, making that decision, the right decision that's not going to lead to a turnover? I honestly think that Casey's going to be really influential on that side, but it's probably still going to be heavily on Seth Latrell.
Yeah, and I want to go back to what you were talking about earlier as far as interceptions. Man, I think if there's double-digit interceptions, it's not a great year for Jackson Arnold. Like, it's kind of disappointing. I need to see that he learned from the 4 turnovers against Arizona. Is he going to throw picks? Yeah. Every quarterback throws interceptions. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's impossible to. Yeah.
It is what it is. It's part of the game. But I want to, and again, context does matter, as you mentioned, but I want to see him find that good balance of taking a risk and also just being able to see the defense well. And if he does that, then I'm not concerned about the interceptions. I'm not concerned about what Jackson Arnold's going to do. I really think he's going to have a big year on the 0 to 10 confidence scale. I mean, I'm 9 out of 10, okay. Jackson Arnold homer, fully admit it. I think the dude's got as much talent as any quarterback that's come through Oklahoma in the last 25 years. So
I love it.
I mean, give me JA all day. I think he's going to be a big time player for Oklahoma, and we'll get to see it shortly when the Temple Owls come to Norman for a Friday night tilt. Are they going to be ready though? We'll find out coming up next here on Locked On Sooners. The Oklahoma Sooners are not one of the favorites to win the SEC. They're sitting there with the 9th best odds to win the conference, according to FanDuel, behind teams like Georgia, Texas, Bama, Ole Miss, LSU, Texas A&M, Tennessee, Missouri. Well, hey, the sports aren't sporting like we want them to, Jay, but FanDuel has got a deal going for everybody this summer. They keep the sports going whenever you want. All you got to do is open the app, dream up bets anytime I'm in the mood or you're in the mood. They've got a booster, a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. They're an official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. So head on over to FanDuel.com and start making the most out of your summer. Jay, what do you make of Oklahoma in that 9th spot in the conference odds?
I mean, that's a juicy number, right? And if Oklahoma finds a way to get up there and win that, I mean, that's a profit that I would gladly throw a few dollars on just in case, because as high as we are on Oklahoma, FanDuel is starting to see, those numbers have been changing a little bit here and there because they understand that the bettors are seeing Oklahoma may have a chance. So if you get opportunity, go ahead and jump on FanDuel, take advantage of it and hit that number because it's worth putting about $10 on it at least.
Yeah, right now Oklahoma plus 2,700. You put $10 on that, you get $270 back. If Oklahoma wins the SEC, again, go to FanDuel.com to make every moment more. FanDuel is an official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. Temple Owls, week 1 of the college football season. Rest in peace. No, I think it's going to be, let me just say this. Back in 2008, New Year's going into 2009. I'm traveling up Highway 81 from Bowie, Texas to Duncan, Oklahoma, Duncan, America. Ooh. My wife has just gotten a job working a clinic in Velma, Oklahoma, a little town of 600 people. Shout out to Velma Regional Medical Clinic. And I'm traveling up for a New Year's Eve party because she's living there. I'm still living down in Fort Worth before we got married. And I'm traveling up 81, going 80 miles an hour, pitch black at night. And all of a sudden, out of the corner of my eye, I see this thing swooping down. I'm like, sure enough, that's not going to go right. And boom, I crush it with my F-150, front end. And I pull over and I stop. And it's an owl sucked into the grate of my F-150, dead on contact.
Wow.
Now, there won't be an actual murder that takes place on Owen Field when the Oklahoma Sooners and the Temple Owls go to battle, but it's going to be much like that. Temple's going to kind of swoop in on a Friday evening and not leave in a very good state because the Oklahoma Sooners are going to be ready to make a point to the rest of the country that week 1 game.
Yeah, I did not see that coming on the story fully, but no, I kind of had a feeling that there's going to be somebody dying in that one, and that bird unfortunately got it. No, in this game, man, look, Temple's, we was looking at the numbers, man, and it's just, they're just not very good. And it's got a lot of rebuild for them. They've got a lot of revamping, right? I mean, the last time they were good was the year after Matt Rule left. It's been a bit for them, and so they're just rebuilding, retooling, trying to figure it out. Their current coach is a native Clevelander, and so he's from the area, and so he's going to try to revive that program. But what I expect in this game, and this is kind of the weird thing, I expect Oklahoma to blow them out, but I don't expect the starters to play very long even with the blowout, right? I actually don't even expect the starters to blow them out. I expect the second group to be the ones to really put in the work, because this is a great opportunity to get some young guys some game while at the same time not showing your cards too much. And it's unfortunately it's a substantial amount of shade to Temple, because Temple's not very good right now. They've got, I mean, I was looking at Phil Steele's rankings of them, and they were like 133rd in pass defense efficiency out of 133 teams. That kind of tells you everything you need to know, right? But they're just, we should go out there and handle them with ease, like you did the one that flew in front of your car. Yes.
I mean, it's going to be like Arkansas State from 2023. I mean, this is going to be a team that defensively is not good. They might be able to do a little bit offensively because they're average, middle of the pack in the country, 70th in total yards and scoring, around that, but defensively just not good. And so whatever Oklahoma is going to want to do offensively, they're going to be able to do it. And I think you're right, man. It's going to be one of those games where you get to empty the bench. You're going to be able to empty your full clip and see what you've got. You're going to get valuable playing time and valuable snaps for everybody on your roster if you want to. And I think you're right. I think they do let the first team, that kind of too deep, play a lot of the first half and see where they're at. And then coming out in the second half, you see a lot of those third and fourth, fifth stringers getting more and more opportunities. This is the game to get everybody snaps, because listen, if you're wanting to preserve red shirts, fine, but this is not going to be the game that you have to concern yourself with that. You might not play everybody against Tulane or Houston. You'll probably play everybody against Maine later in the season, but this is one of those games where you get a chance to see everybody get some opportunities.
No, 100%. And, shout out to, Arkansas State, Butch Jones, over there tried to rebuild those bad boys, because after that throttling we gave them, they actually went to a bowl game. They went 6-6 in the season and finished 6-7 because they lost their bowl game. So shout out to them for being able to do that and be able to, bounce back from that 73-0 drumming. But I don't think Temple's going to even be able to bounce back from that type of, from just any loss. Right. I mean, they went 3-9 last season. I'm sensing they're probably seeing 3-9 again this year. They should have at least one
returning production.
90th in returning production. They ain't bringing nobody back. That should tell you everything you need to know about what they're going to try to figure out this season. It's a rebuild. So we'll luckily get to take advantage of it. And this will be a time for us to really figure out what we want to do. And the best part is at Owen Field at night on a Friday night. So make sure y'all get y'all tickets to go enjoy that, because it's going to be a fun time.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun time. I'm sure they'll have the production value ratcheted up quite a bit. And it's going to be awesome for us, and for you as the fan, because you're going to get to see a lot of the guys that we've been talking about for a couple years now. I think like a guy like Ashton Sanders, I really like his game, and I think he's got a chance to be a productive player on this team at some point. We just haven't seen it yet, but this is going to be an opportunity for us to get a glimpse of him against live competition. You can think of the young safeties that we've been raving about all offseason, the Reggie Powers and Michael Boganowski's, the Michael Patterson McDonald, a dude that I think flies under the radar because he's not the 4-star prospect. He's not the big heavy hitter, but he's a guy that can make some plays in his own right. The wide receivers like a Brennan Thompson or Jaquays Petaway, guys, again, flying under the radar. You're going to get an opportunity to see these guys. And so it's going to be a great opportunity to just kind of get a chance to see your favorites, the guys that you've been looking forward to seeing on the field at some point.
Yeah. Expect to go deep on the defensive line, like you mentioned. And that's perfect, right? That's the perfect game to give Champ Sanders, to give Grayson Halton really like a lot of time, to give Marcus Strong a lot of time, Devon Sears. It's a very great opportunity to really play them more, and even the edges, right? Getting PJ out there. At this point, you can't redshirt a lot of these guys, so get PJ out there more, right? Get R. Mason Thomas out there more. This is the best opportunity to play the guys that you need to see who's able to take the calls and actually execute on them in preparation for that Houston game and that Tulane game.
Yep, it's going to be that first building block on what we hope will be a successful 2024 season that ends in a playoff berth, SEC title contention, We'll see, but this is just going to be that first building block against the Temple Owls. We're going to continue to discuss Oklahoma's schedule over the next few weeks as we get ready for the 2024 college football season. Make sure you go to Locked On Sooners, subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. We're also available on YouTube. Hit that notification bell over there to let you know when new episodes drop. Follow the show on all the social medias, Twitter, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, wherever you like to social media. Locked On Sooners is available for you. Follow Jay at Unfair Sports, myself at John 9 Williams. We'll be back with more discussion. And hey, Javante Barnes might be back to his old self, according to Brent Venables. We're going to discuss that on tomorrow's episode, so make sure you're tuned in, again, wherever you get your podcast. But for Jay Smith, I'm John Williams. We'll talk to you next time. Boomer
Sooner.